it's not only Hong Kong. It's from Hong Kong, there will be Taiwan, and later on, they have One Belt, One Road. They are going to many, many countries. Myanmar. You think Myanmar started themselves? No, it's 100% China behind them.
Good afternoon and welcome to everybody. We are in different time zones, I think, in Taiwan, America, and Germany. And so this meeting is organized or invited by the International Society for Human Rights, the German branch, IGFM, die Internationale Gesellschaft für Menschenrechte. And the title of today's seminar, or it's actually a question, today Hong Kong, tomorrow the world. And my name is Thomas Kalmund. I'm very happy to be the host for this seminar. I'm also having a YouTube channel where I'm dealing with these some China-related topics. And today we are discussing a very comprehensive and important topic, which is not only about the defaulting takeover of Hong Kong by the Chinese Communist regime and how to deal with it. We're also looking forward to ask what would be the next steps of the communist regime in Beijing and how could the free world eventually respond to these steps. So we really try to also look for positive solutions here. So we invited 3 experts, and I'm happy they're all in the meeting now. They all originate from Hong Kong, but they all don't live in Hong Kong today. So as I already said, one in America, one in Taiwan, one in Germany, and they all have their own personal and special understanding about the triangle situation between Hong Kong, China, and the world. And so we may hear different perspectives also about the potential threat the world is facing now from the growing power of the Chinese Communist Party or the China under the communist regime. And from the program, you probably may have read, we have 4 specific talking points, which show our speakers may address a little bit more, have some focus on this. So the first is about the consequences of the new security law in Hong Kong, and what is the result or the how to deal with the new comprehensive agreement on investment between China and the European Union, which is also has to be still passed the European Parliament. Then we also have one question. I think this is Elmer. Been talking about how come the Communist Party of China always managed to win twice in a win-win situation, and I'm curious also about this topic. How is the Chinese Communist Party using artificial intelligence and big data to increase their power? This is also something I think Manyan is talking about. So the first 30 minutes will be dedicated for our speakers with 10 minutes each. And then we have 30 minutes for discussion. I think we may don't exceed too much the time. I think Elmer need to leave too. So, okay. So our first speaker is Wong. So if you want to raise him, I will tell you how to raise questions. Usually you'll be muted. Everybody will be muted. So he was a protest leader. Let me just introduce you. Protest leader and co-coordinator for the Civil Human Rights Front in Hong Kong from 2018 to 2019, and he lives today in exile in Taiwan. So please, Yik-Mo, you have 10 minutes from now on.
Right. Thank you, Thomas. And thank you, organizer, for the invitation. Well, yes, as Thomas has introduced, I am Hong Kong activist. Now I live in Taiwan. Just when I look back at what happened to Hong Kong, I think as most of you are MPs here or who cares about Hong Kong, you know the very recent protest movement. I regret to say that we spent decades fighting for democracy. For me, very beginning, the Tiananmen Square massacre. So 500,000 people took to the streets, and then 2003, anti-national security law demonstration, another 500,000, and then 2014 umbrella movement, and the very recent 2019 protest movement. All these incidents we fought in the streets, but you might not know, Hong Kongers, we have tried very hard to protest within the institutions, that is in the legislative elections. or via NGOs making suggestions to our governments, because we believed in peaceful protest, and we believed that one day China will change, and that we will bring positive influence to China because we believe in our values. But apparently that's not right. China doesn't want that. And what's happening now after the 2019 protests? So basically, China is telling us that Hong Kong doesn't deserve election because what happened was in 2019 in November, we won a landslide in district council election, which was a reminder to Chinese regime that election will one day destroy their control over Hong Kong. And we're not surprised that the legislative election last year in 2020 has been cancelled. And the people who participated in the pre-election, they have been arrested. Well, some fled to Hong Kong. I think until now, around 42 were still detained. And that is China does to us. So first of all, they crack down the street protests. And then when we stop protesting in the streets, then that's when they have time to take care of the peaceful, rational protests within the institution. I don't believe in future election, to be honest. I don't think China is going to give us time in election. They're not going to give us chance. And just sometimes when I talk to foreigners, sometimes to politicians, and very often they ask us, so why don't you cope with your government and work together? For example, my former boss, the Consul General of Germany in Hong Kong, he said, don't you forget that you have the responsibility to work together with the pro-establishment camp. And I guess there's no need to explain why we're not coping with authoritarianism, especially to German politicians. There is a saying in Chinese language, cooking frogs in warm water, which means they're taking their steps very slowly so that we don't feel anything. And whenever we feel anything, the changes are very gradual so that we don't notice that we are doomed. Hong Kong has suffered, and I regret not knowing more about East Turkestan or Tibet when I was younger. Now we want the world to stand in solidarity, and we want to warn them about China, about Hong Kong, and we don't want them to become the next Hong Kong. Especially when with Hong Kongers, we fight in solidarity, we believe only when the other parts of the free world stay strong, then we will have a chance. Because we're mutually dependent on each other when we're dealing with authoritarianism, just like what happened in the past after World War II, just like always. Hong Kong alone will never win. Europe alone will never win either. And therefore, I have some specific points to raise. The first one is, I know in Sweden, the government has conducted a survey. It's called Chinese Corporate Acquisitions in Sweden, a survey. It was published in November 2019. So they listed, I think, 60 companies, Swedish companies, that have been acquired by Chinese capitals. And just 1 year later, in May 2020, their parliament has amended law to stop foreign investments until next more comprehensive investigation is complete. So I believe Germany may do the same, especially when Germany is the biggest economy in Europe. We believe counting on China, on the one hand, you will be beneficial from its capital in the market. On the other hand, it's also dangerous that China will invade into your businesses. So that's my first point. Second point is the EU-China CIA Comprehensive Investment Agreement. Well, the atmosphere, I know there's an atmosphere that Europe wants to pass and then set up mechanism to monitor human rights violations. But I don't believe in that because that's from our experiences in Hong Kong. We used to believe China, we give them chances. And what happened is that now Hong Kong is doomed. China is only taking time. As I said, cooking frogs in warm water. When China gets strong enough, like now, then China will overthrow everything in Hong Kong. And one day this would happen to Europe as well. I think either we stop now. It's a now or never situation. Because I believe if you can't stop China now, if you can't make China compromise right now, then I don't think China will in the future, no matter what agreements you sign. The next point is Confucius Institute. There are over 200 Confucius Institutes in Europe. And everybody knows that it's a government organ to brainwash people, especially students, to put their influence and culture and language into Europe and the world. I know that Sweden and Norway have completely closed all Confucius Institutes within their border. Very recently, the US ambassador in Taiwan welcomed the Taiwanese professors to the US and said that Taiwan can play an important role when in the future when US wants to learn Chinese language and culture. And I believe that Germany can also learn from them. And just like what Heiko Maas said in its Indo-Pacific strategy, that Germany doesn't want to depend on a single country. So I think this not just on trade, but also on cultural exchange. So my question is, I have two questions. The first one is, I have heard about the Indo-Pacific strategy by Heiko Maas and would like to know what's the progress now in Germany. And the second question is, because the European Parliament has passed a resolution about Hong Kong, and it also mentioned lifeboat scheme. But as far as I know, it's very hard to implement a lifeboat scheme because making Hong Kongers special will be discriminatory to other people in need. So I would just like to ask what special measures are taken or are going to be taken by Germany to help Hong Kongers who will need asylum. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. This is perfect timing. So our next speaker, thank you, Wong. Our next speaker is quite well-known entrepreneur, Elmer Yuan. He is one of the first major investors to do business in China, starting already in 1977. So this is over 4 decades. And he built up one of the largest companies producing digital watches and electronics in the world. And so in relation with his business, he has, I guess, for sure, a lot of contact working with leading politicians and business people in China, Hong Kong, and also in the United States, where he lives today. And yeah, we're delighted to hear from you. Please, Mr. Yuan, the floor is yours. You need to first unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay.
And I'm 72 years old. I lived 20 years in China, 10 years Shanghai, 10 years Beijing, and about 20 years in Hong Kong, and 20 years in the States. I'm in Washington now, lobbying the American to take down the CCP. Take down means eliminate. And I've been here 9 months. I cannot go back to Hong Kong. I'm like a fugitive. But that's not the point. The point I'm talking about. And I have many, many friends in China. Also in Germany. I used to sell to all the big retailers in Germany. Queller, Nickerman, you name it, Chibo. Anyway, but I know Germany quite well. Today, Hong Kong is similar to West Berlin being occupied by the East German. I mean, that has always been my best example to use, especially for this occasion, because I believe most audience are from Germany. So it's a terrible.
Oh, sorry. I just moved you. Sorry.
So anyway, it's a terrible situation in Hong Kong. We're losing everything: freedom, rule of law, and democracy, and it's going to get worse. But let me get back to today's subject. I have many, many friends in Beijing, very highest level, all right? And I only left Beijing about maybe 9-10 months ago, and then just stopped off in Hong Kong before coming to Washington. Now, of course, I cannot go back. Many Beijing friends have been celebrating. All right, they think they have the entire pandemic under control in China, and the loss of life or something is much less, which is true because they can lock people up in their home without letting them travel. This is their sense of quarantine. But the most important thing is after Donald Trump lost the election, I don't want to go into detail how he lost it. But I call up my friends in China, mostly Communist Party members, and they were celebrating. All right, they say it's a win-win situation, and I ask, how come? They say first we gave them the virus. All right, maybe in the beginning not deliberately, but they let it spread, and then they've warned everybody very, very late. Together with WHO, they have delayed the warning to the world at least for 2 months. WHO did not declare a pandemic until middle of March. Yet the virus actually became, in Wuhan, was already spreading in November of 2019, right? So maybe they did not deliberately start it off. And we all know that it came from the Wuhan lab, there's no doubt. But that's not the issue. The issue is they allowed this to spread all over the world. And I was very disappointed when I came to US. Most bureaucrats don't take that seriously. They keep on saying, show me the evidence, show me the evidence. Now, over 500,000 people in the US died, and I don't know how many in Germany. They're still looking for evidence. It's really very weak character, all right, including the press, including the politician, and so on. Terrible. I mean, what is their responsibility to the people? And then so the Chinese said, this is the first win. And the second win, we have taken down the US president without a single bullet, right? And again, Americans say, show me the evidence. Of course, they suppress all the vote rigging, election rigging in US, all the so-called mainstream media, including Europe, all right? They suppress all the irregularity, the illegal rigging of the election, all right? And now nobody's even allowed to talk about it. Social media was helping them. If you say something like that, they shut you down. So basically, this whole thing was a coup. The China have won 2 times. They weakened the whole economy. They weakened the health of the global citizens. Now they have removed the leader of the free world who was willing to stand up to China. And of course, a lot of people, for whatever reason, dislike Donald Trump. But that's not the issue. He at least was the only one who was willing to stand up and call out the CCP, what they have done wrong. This is a very, very serious matter. I know all the high-level people, both in US and in China. I know it's a very serious situation. It's not only Hong Kong. It's from Hong Kong, there will be Taiwan, and later on, they have one belt, one road. They are going to many, many countries. Myanmar. You think Myanmar started themselves? No, it's 100% China behind them. So all these one belt, one road, one by one, they are coming. They will support some kind of dictatorial government, work with them, and then control each country. They have a global dominance. It's not secret. I mean, look at even look at the communist doctrine or Karl Marx. Understand, they are not going to coexist with you guys. I mean, you see, they're very clever. They don't come and openly steal your technology. But now this joint investment, what does that mean? They are coming in through equity. All right, they are going to buy up the shares and then control from the board, all right, from shareholders, from the board, and then influence your policy. They have stolen altogether, all right. In China, they made, as you know, in the last 30 years, they made over $20 trillion, all right, of US dollars, all right, 20 trillions. And where is that money? A lot of that money is already have been buying up shares using shelf company, all right, not directly, buying up equity, both in the United States and in Europe and even in Japan. They are running our Fortune 500 companies. And we are still sleeping. We are still sleeping. That's what I want to say. I mean, I'm nobody in Germany or in America. I'm just trying to wake people up. Believe me, they are winning. And our people are mostly still asleep. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Elmer, for this interesting remarks. So yeah, we just move on right away to our next speaker, which is Manyan or Wu Wenxin. And he is Hong Kong, also Hong Kong born China expert living in Germany today. And he is for decades been a human rights advocate and activist against human rights violations. And in this function, he also is a board member of the International Society for Human Rights in Germany. And yeah, please, Manyan, the word is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, AI, artificial intelligence, and big data. Okay, it's a 2 point. You know, the Chinese Communist Party pretty early identified high tech can strengthen their ruling, their dictatorship. So they started applying and investing in high tech pretty early. Now in Hong Kong, you know, in Hong Kong they have set up many monitoring camera, and they have been using this camera and utilizing artificial intelligence like facial recognition, so you can recognize the face, and also voice recognition to track down protest activists and arrest them, and many of them got tortured, and many young women or young girls actually got even raped. That's a fact. Now, not only in in Hong Kong, we could experience that. We could even see all this camera and how they mistreated the young people there. But it is, of course, not the only place they are using AI and big data. Inside mainland China is widespread application. In China today, according to their official figures, they have already assembled or installed 600 million cameras all over China, from Beijing to Xinjiang, where the Uyghurs are, from Harbin to Hong Kong, you know, all over the country, because their ambition is the system should be able to use maximum 2 minutes to identify any person showing up anywhere in China, okay? And you have 1.4 billion people, so it can take up to 2 minutes, but maximum 2 minutes, usually much faster. So, and some people may think, well, bad luck for the Chinese, but wait a moment. It doesn't stop at the border of China. Actually, what they want is basically using high tech to collect information about every individual person, and they love to do the same thing also outside China. That's why, sorry, that's why you talk about big data, and then they, all this data will then be processed by, very powerful computer. Maybe you don't know that a Chinese company turned out to be the biggest buyer, the biggest single buyer of a super database machine from the company Oracle already 12, 13 years ago, they discovered. And it is the Ministry of Security of China's state security, yeah? Like in German, you say the Stasi. They are behind this Chinese company. Okay, and that is already 12, 13 years ago. And this is official. This is a question raised by a shareholder of Oracle. Now, and why I say it doesn't stop within the Chinese border, because I happen to have a friend who used to be the IT manager of National Security Authority in one of the EU country. Yeah, I mean, you understand that I don't want to disclose his identity. He met me about 10 years ago. And then he found out that, in our talk, that I have been working hard to fight for human rights for the Chinese people. I have been, defending the human rights of Tibetans, of the Falun Gong practitioner, of the Uyghurs, and the human rights lawyers, and Christian, and so on. Yeah. Then he said, Manyan, make sure you don't use a mobile phone from Huawei. Make sure you don't use a computer from Lenovo. Make sure you don't use WeChat software, the Chinese social network. Make sure you don't shop through Alibaba, and so on. The list. I understood why he said it, but still I want to hear more. So I say, why? Well, he said, my information is last year, all these companies had a secret meeting with the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party. And they all agree to provide all data they have collected to the Ministry of State Security. The huge super database machine which can process big data, which can put together important pictures for them by all this puzzle data. So why I tell you this story, what I'm saying is, you living in Germany or anywhere in Europe, you can be the victim of their data collection. If you have a Chinese, if you are using Chinese computer, Chinese software, Chinese mobile phone, or in the future, if we allowed Huawei to run 5G, yeah, then without the information of our person will no longer have any privacy. That you have to be aware of. And then you can ask, why they do that? Why they, well, officially they say they use AI and all this to fight criminality. But I tell you, criminality is not at all the highest priority. The Communist Party of China, the highest priority is always to maintain their power, to increase their power. That's always the highest priority. So they are preparing to control, to conquer the world. I'm not exaggerating. It is actually nothing new. You should understand that the Communist Party ruling China now is the same Communist Party who came to power 1949. And after they took power in China in 1949, what did they talk about at that time? They talk about world revolution, right? So in the 50s and 60s, they run their world revolution by supporting all communist parties all around the world, selling weapons to them, giving them money in all these communist parties in Indonesia, in India, in Malaysia, and so on and so on. Yeah, they started in Asia. It didn't work out. Yeah, it didn't work out. So later they have a new strategy. They call it high our strength and wait for our time. So from that moment, that was about 1978 when this Deng Xiaoping came to power. Yeah, then suddenly China started to smile to the outside world, and always keep telling you guys, oh, we are just a poor developing country, and we need your help. We need your help. Yeah, human rights is good, but you guys should help us to develop economy. And when Chinese people become richer, then then we can have more human rights and freedom and democracy. And unfortunately, just too many Westerner believe in that. Some believe, some may not believe, but won't believe. Yeah. So anyway, what happened is by this deception tactic, they have been able to access very high technology in Western world, in America particularly, and also in Europe. Yeah, you know, you guys should understand that China has organized the whole country like an army. So you should not think that only that guy who is employed by the Ministry of State Security, he is an agent, he is a spy. I can tell you, I'm sorry to say that almost every mainland Chinese can be or is a potential spy, because they have run the whole country with this mentality. They brainwash young people as if, you know, they keep telling them the Western power has been humiliating us for 100 years. Now it's time for us to show our strength. Okay, so the strategy, hiding our strength and wait for our time. So now the time has come. So don't think that it is only because of Xi Jinping suddenly we feel much more aggression from China, much tough talk. No, it's part of the whole master plan. Yeah, now the phase of hiding strength is over. Yeah, now the time, our time has come. That's how they think. Now they can take over America, step by step, of course. So, and in this respect, my advice to you is, remember, when you listen to the communist officials, yeah, so mistrust what they say and check how much is true in what they say. This is my sincere advice to you. Always mistrust and verify, yeah, and don't forget the principle that they always follow is not socialism and Marxism and all this, yeah, is the principle of the end justifies the means, yeah, der Zweck heiligt the Mittel. So this is exactly, they have consequently following, and their end, their goal is always to maintain their power and to strengthen their power. And this is actually why all this persecution, because they had a goal already since 1949. Within 100 years, China should be the superpower #1 and conquer the world. And any person, any organization that, according to the party, is an obstacle for them to come to that goal should be eliminated. Yeah, this is exactly why they persecute all the faith group. You know, Tibet's Buddhist and Falun Gong practitioner and Christian and the Islamic Muslim in Xinjiang, the Uyghur. You know, they have something in common. They have faith. And faith group seen by the party is the worst groups in the society, because they have no faith group is difficult to crush. Okay, so this is why. This is why. Okay, remember that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Manyan, for your speech. So now we come to the second part where you can raise questions. I think we have a lot of inspiration already from the three speakers. So I think most of you are already familiar with the WebEx software. You can raise your hand. There is a smiley button on the bottom, and there you can raise your hand. So if you want to raise a question, and I encourage you to use the time, value the time, and then I will ask you to talk. You can have your camera switched on or not, it's up to you. And yeah, you can just try out.
Hello, can you hear me? I've tried to leave and then now I'm back in.
Yeah, okay.
But the camera is still not on, right?
It's not on, no.
Right, so let's not spend time on that. So it's my turn?
No, the question is that somebody has a question. There is Mr. Jensen, Guy Jensen, yeah? Can you please unmute? You need to please unmute yourself when I call you on. And then, yeah.
Yes,
thank you. Mrs. Jensen, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good, it is a female name. Thank you.
Okay, female. Okay, okay.
I have a question to all three speakers, if that's possible, because we have the European Foreign Minister Council coming up next week, and we already hear and heard this today that they might be issuing for the first time individual sanctions towards the Communist Party officials and certain organizations. And my question to all of you would be, do you think this is a necessary means that would actually fulfill the goal of these sanctions, or do you think that the Communist Party in China would not see them as the kind of sanction that the European Union intended it to be?
Okay, so probably just ask the speakers in the order they have the speeches, so we can. Yik-Mo, you can start. Just please make it short so we have enough time for other questions too.
Right. Actually, that is my point that I didn't have time to make during my speech. Well, we know the Magnitsky sanction has been passed in Europe. We are now working with other countries, for example, the Netherlands and Sweden, because we know there is difficulty within the EU that some countries like Hungary or Greece, they might veto when or during the action. So that's why we're asking for individual countries, if they have the will to have a multi-state sanction if the EU sanction doesn't work out. And to Guida's specific question, is it enough? Is it the sanction that will have effect on the Chinese CCP? I think if it's only Germany, then no. If it's only EU, well, might be there is a stronger effect. And I think the more countries they are in, the more powerful it will be. And that is why we understand that member states of the EU and other countries like Norway, not in the EU, you always want to do it in solidarity, because the more countries, the more powerful it will be. So I think, yes, this is a kind of sanction that we want. And we understand that only sanctions is not enough. There must be other means to make China understand that what China does is not okay, and the international community will take more actions to make sure the human rights situation is okay in China.
Okay.
Thomas, can I talk?
Thank you. Yeah, please. Yeah, your
Yes,
mic is on.
I'm here in Washington, and I've been watching in 9 months. Sanction helps, but sanction is not going to solve the problem. The only way to solve the problem, we have a long-term view. Not even decoupling with the CCP or PRC is going to work. The world, fortunately, is moving in the right direction, is to isolate the CCP. Isolate. Forget about doing any business with them. It has to stop. Isolate until they give up communism, and then you will have a much bigger market and bigger customer to do business with you. Chinese economy can grow 10 times without the communism. Look at Taiwan, look at Hong Kong, look at Singapore. We Chinese can manage unbelievable business. We are as smart as anybody, all right? And with such a big market, we can do huge miracles. What the communists are doing is they are only pushing down the salary of the workers, all right, and try to show you that they can deliver cheap goods. And also, they just show you, oh, we have 1.4 billion people can come in. We need to surround and circle China, isolate them, force them to get rid of communism, and then that is the long-term solution. And Germany, businessmen, and so on, they have to understand that. Otherwise, the communists will come and eat your lunch. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Elmer. So, last speaker, Manyan, you need to please unmute first.
Okay. Shall I make a comment on it? Okay.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
I totally agree with Elmer. You know, sanction does help. I recalled in the time of Pompeo, when he was the Secretary of State, he announced a sanction against both top official in Beijing and top official in Hong Kong. And I think it was really, it does help, because the sanction lead to that, for example, Carrie Lam, she's basically the governor of Hong Kong, or they call it chief executive, and she couldn't even get her salary through bank transfer, because all banks need to do business with American dollar. And when American sanction, no bank can even do any business with this sanctioned person. So Carrie Lam could only get a huge bag of cash every month, and she can't go anywhere because no major airliner will sell her a ticket. No big hotel will even let her to book a room. So I mean, she survived, of course, but it has a kind of moral effect, yeah, and that strengthened the unity of the suppressed people in Hong Kong. So that's why I agree with Helmut. The sanction help, but that doesn't solve the problem. Yeah, and I fully agree. To solve the problem, we have to isolate the Chinese Communist regime. They are actually inside China. They are openly telling the Chinese people that America and Europe, America is our enemy number one, and number two is Europe, and that now China is so strong that we are going to take over. I mean, they are already domestically declaring as a kind of may not be war, but a kind of antagony. Yeah. So it is time for us to react. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Manyan. So please, Anissa Anderson, we can also, I have some question also in the chat. I will try to come to this later. First, please, Anissa Anderson. Okay.
Hello, my name is Anissa Anderson. I come from Hong Kong, but live in Germany. I am the chairperson of Hong Kongers in Germany Association. Actually, I want to ask our guest, as a Hong Konger in Germany, as our association have done quite a lot of things, try to write to the government or with open letters or private, even the sanction list we have sent out, and we couldn't see anything. We are so disappointed and we are so frustrated. What can we do to help our people in Hong Kong? I have totally agree also sanction helps, but I also understand especially the point from Germany that we have to keep close or the good relations between with China, but as our counselor always say, we need dialogue. How many dialogues have been asked, and what is the result of the dialogue? And I want to ask our guests, what can we do, or what is the plan to push the EU Parliament, or especially where I'm living, Germany, and what should we do to draw the attention or to raise our a problem and let the German government or the EU try to involve to help us? Because actually we have an open letter with IGFM just a couple weeks ago, and we asked for sanction. Because when we see the right Russian, one got caught, and the voice in Germany is so big, and what is happening in Hong Kong is like nobody cares. So I want to know what can I do as a Hong Konger in Germany Association chairperson. What can I do, or what should Hong Konger who living abroad can do? This is my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So is there anybody from your side, Emma or
My simple recommendation is don't elect any politician that supports China. As simple as that. Most of them are being are being somehow, all right, controlled by the CCP. Trust me, all right? They are very, very good at it. It's the same in US. In US, I talked to many congressmen, and now the people have woke up, and all the congressmen, of course, directly represent the people. And they are very, very anti-CCP. The word they use is ABC, anything but China. Don't buy anything from China. Don't elect any politician supports China. Isolate them. Thank you.
Okay, Manyan, do you want to you need to please unmute. Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I fully agree with Elmer, and I think the German government and German parliamentarians, yeah, I think when you work out your future or a new China strategy, it must be a strategy much more based on universal values than based on economic interest. I mean, we have had behind us, I mean, in the past, we have had a China strategy, which has been paying too much attention to economic interest. Yeah, of course, it's also a factor, but much more important is to the universal values such as freedom, human rights, democracy, and also to the national security of Germany and national security of Europe. And please, you have to remember that the Chinese Communist regime is the master of deception. They are so good in lying and cheating. Please remember that. And you have to work out a strategy that their lies, their cheating doesn't have much market. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Manyan. So, Yik-Mo, you probably also want to say something. There's also like a question in the chat to you. I don't know if you saw this. You can also answer this in your question. It's about to Yik-Mo. So there's actually two questions from Soap. One is about what's your opinion on the lifeboat schemes introduced by several countries to give Hong Kongers a means to leave? And the second question is, in January, the German Ministry for Economy asked if Taiwanese manufacturers could help ease a shortage of semiconductor chips. Would you say Taiwan's monopoly over the market for computer chips gives Taiwan significant economic and political leverage, especially entering into our technology-heavy future? What's your vision for Taiwan's future? So, I mean, I think, I also want to probably add, initially the title for this seminar should be first Hong Kong, then Taiwan, and after this, the world. So also my question to all of you also after Yik-Mo answer probably first. What's your stance about the next bet is regarding Taiwan?
Thank you very much for the question. Well, yes, we have learned the recent debate over if Taiwan should sell its chips to prioritize its chips for the German car industry. Well, my question is, how does Germany think that Taiwan should provide chips to German auto industry if Germany wants to prioritize its market in China? Because that's what we are talking about. We want to not depend on single country, especially not on China. And only very recently, Taiwan has provided face masks to Germany, and yet German government doesn't recognize Taiwan as, a country. So, and I think if anybody has been following the debate, then we will know that Taiwan needs dignity. And I don't think Taiwan is monopolizing with its technology. On the other hand, I think Taiwan shows a very good example for the world that when we are talking about multilateralism, it's not just China, but also Taiwan, maybe Japan, Korea, and I don't know, Bangladesh, Indonesia, India, many other countries. But I think Taiwan is where we can start with if we are talking about computer chips. And I think both questions, I'm actually very interested in how the German politicians who attend the webinar here, I would like to know your opinion about these questions.
Okay, thank you. Actually, the questions usually go to our speakers and vice versa. But of course, if anybody is here in the webinar who want to take a stance on this, you're welcome to mention your opinion. You can also please still raise your hand, and then I pass on the word further to Wenqin or Elmer. Yeah, please. Oh, you're muted, Manyan.
Okay, I can say a few words. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I think Taiwan is really a leading country in semiconductor technology. Yeah, of course, a lot of high tech they need are coming from the U.S. Yeah, and this is why when U.S. sanctioned Huawei. By not allowing any company in the world to supply those advanced chips to Huawei, and Taiwan stopped also selling their chip to Huawei because Taiwan used a lot of production technology from America in order to produce this very advanced chips where you talk about 7 nanos or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, Taiwan actually in high tech is really an interesting potential partner for a country like Germany. But like Yik-Mo pointed out, if we on one side give priority and show respect to mainland China, which is basically a kind of enemy now of Taiwan, how can we expect them to have a really good and productive relationship with Taiwan? So my advice here again, don't forget that Taiwan is the only territory of the traditional China. We have to accept the fact that Taiwan was, before the communists, Taiwan was a province of China. Yeah, and Taiwan is the only place left from the original China, which is still democratic and have a high degree respect for human rights. And so for me, it's actually is terrible that I'm not blaming anyone, but when I see that in this world, so many governments put attention on their relationship with Beijing and just ignore Taiwan, this is not in balance. If we are really a believer of democracy and human rights, then we have to, again, as I said before, we must have a China strategy based on universal values. Yeah, and that I think in the long run will be very beneficial for Germany. I think Elmer say something here. He is an expert in semiconductor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, please, Emma.
Taiwan is in a position with this shortage going on right now, and I'm advising the Prime Minister of Taiwan to come to Germany and ask for a diplomatic recognition of Taiwan, the Republic of China, and in return for full supply of semiconductor to the German industry. Very simple, very simple. Taiwan is definitely in the leading position because they are the biggest supplier, of course, of chips to Infineon. And so make a deal. You recognize me diplomatically, I give you 100% of what you need. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. We have probably a few more minutes left, so please use the opportunity to raise your questions to our speaker. So,
one more thing.
Please.
Don't worry about pissing off the CCP. When they need you, they need you. Look at Australia. All right, they were trying to do everything against Australia, and the Australians stood strong. In the end, all right, they won all the battles. So don't worry about CCP not buying from Germany. It's not possible. They need you. Thank you.
Okay, so my question for you is also what, from your point of view, would be the best scenario, what could happen regarding to the development in China? I mean, we see a big threat coming, so but what from your part would be the most ideal scenario, what could happen or what should happen, so in this year, 2021, that the outcome would turn to the good?
Thomas, the Chinese are desperate. The CCP are desperate. Their economy is in very, very serious trouble. And then Xi Jinping is trying to pop it up, all right? Huge debt problem. If we continue the isolation, they will be forced either to surrender or to attack Taiwan, all right? They have to do something. Right now, they are urging the Anchorage meeting, not the American. America was coming home, all right? So make a stop in Anchorage for refuel, and the Chinese insist on having a meeting, all right? Which looks very simply. So what I think the Chinese economy, if you isolate them for 1 year, they will give up communism. Trust me. Thank you.
Okay, that's a strong point. Thank you. So Manyan, what do you?
Yeah, I fully agree. America started a very interesting new China policy the last 2-3 years, right? And part of the policy is to not just to block the further stealing of intellectual property, stealing high tech to China, but also to block the capital flow from American capital market to China. You see, these two things is vital for the Chinese economy. They still need, although they have now mastered some technology, they still need more technologies from the West, and they still need more capital from the West. And, in the past, they have been getting billion and billion from the capital market in New York, in Frankfurt, and so on. So I think the Western or democratic world, including Japan and Australia and so on, they should work together to stop the capital flow to China.
Okay, thank you. So Yik-Mo, you have also raised your hand, so you can probably make your point together.
Right. I understand that most European leaders, politicians, still believe in conversation, in dialogue with China. And I don't oppose that. But I only think that in order to have efficient dialogue, we have to make sure that China will keep its promises and that we're in the same level to discuss things. Well, I would like to tell a very short story that we all know from our childhood. That is when you go to a shop back in the old days. When you go in, you don't immediately show the shopkeeper what you like most, because otherwise you lose your bargaining power. When you like a dress, when you like a pair of jeans, you look around. You don't shout out, "Oh my God, this is my dream jeans," because otherwise the shop will know that no matter what price they raise, you will buy it. And that's exactly what happens right now, because China knows Europe is willing to compromise. And we can see from what has happened that Europe would also compromise with the CAI just to make sure that it can trade with China. So China knows that Europe needs China. But I would like to remind Europe that trade is bilateral. And just as much as you need China, China also needs Europe. And China needs Hong Kong. China needs the US. China needs the world. So why let China manipulate the whole game? So I think trading is okay. It's unavoidable. But I might have a little bit different opinion as others just a tiny bit. I think trading is okay, but make sure that China make things right, not violating human rights. And in order to do that, you have to show China that you are not going to compromise. So let's start with CAI. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're almost in the end. Elmer, you want to respond to this from your perspective, or you're almost some closing notes from your part? We have already time to end.
I believe in the total cutoff. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that's a clear point. I mean, it's also interesting. So we have different views, but I think from my experience, I must say I'm observing this for 20 years. This also makes a little sense to me. Okay, so I think the time is over. Is there anything you want to add on this very briefly in a few seconds? Yeah.
Yeah. May I add a little bit, just a little? Well, following what Yik-Mo said, I want to give my advice to German politicians. Yeah, don't estimate China too strong. They are not so strong as they themselves claim. Yeah, if they are strong, why they need to have totally zero freedom of press, freedom of expression, and so on? You know, if you are strong, you don't need that. But they are very weak, and I know that most intelligent, well-educated people in China, they don't believe in the party. Okay, they just do not have courage enough to say it loud. But one day, like when Elmer said, if we isolate China and China economy get problem, then hundreds and hundreds millions of Chinese will then act. Believe me, and I think already today 30% of them are ready to get rid of the party, and the other are just cheated. But you know, cheating cannot last long. Okay, that's what I want to say.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for joining. Also, thank you to everybody in the audience. I hope you enjoy and get some inspiring ideas, or probably also solutions for your decisions, or further steps how to deal with China after this takeover of Hong Kong. So yeah, thank you also very much to our valued speaker. I think
thank you very much.
Happy you use your time to share your thoughts with us. And yeah, so we asked to finish this meeting on time. I think that's a good point. We can leave. It's 4 o'clock in Taiwan. In America, it's about, you see,
4 o'clock in Taiwan.
It's 4 o'clock. Oh no, sorry, 4 o'clock. Sorry, 4 o'clock. It's in Germany at 11 o'clock in the night in Taiwan, and in America, I don't know. It's probably